Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, welcome to Geek Smack Live on YouTube over at youtube.com/Geekazine. This is where I'm going to be presenting Geek Smack every single Tuesday for Wednesday consumption. This is the pre-show. This is the blog, vlog, whatever you want to call, attaching to the actual show. And I want to say hi. How you doing? How's life going? I think we're going live. It says we're doing it, so maybe we are. Maybe. Yeah, there we are. How you doing? Jeffrey Powers here. I'm just gonna close this all out because that takes up a lot of process, and I don't want to be during the show. So this is the YouTube pre-show. So here's what's happening. From here on in, usually when I did Geek Smack, I did it in 4 different sections. One was the intro section, which talked about all the cool stuff. The second was the first part of Tech Smack, where all the tech news. The third part was Geek Smack with all the geek news, and then of course the editorial type comment. Now, part 2, 3, and 4 will be on the live show. So if you go over to geekazine.com and you go in and you watch the show from there, you'll see part 2, 3, 4. If you are live on YouTube, or actually recorded on YouTube, you will see this part, which basically is the vlog version, the opening intro, or whatever you want to call it. It's just the part of the pre-show. I'm testing out a few things and go from there. So hey, thanks a lot. I just want to thank everybody for downloading episode number 1 of This Week in Google Glass. You know, we had a lot of viewers on that first episode, which actually happened 2 months ago, around the 21st of April, I think it was. Because of that, I came out with a very large bill from Amazon, and I got it yesterday, and I was like, whoa, holy Moses. So I guess I'm gonna have to find some sponsors. We did the episode of This Week in Google Glass yesterday with Luke Wallace, and it was awesome. We talked about a lot of things, including how you shouldn't take your Google Glass on a date, and we talked about that for a little bit. And it's interesting because you don't think of it from the other side of the glass. And in fact, I sat down for just a couple minutes with Jennifer, and we said, when I get Google Glass, how is that going to affect things? Are you going to be intimidated by me wearing Google Glass? Where are we going to wear Google Glass? Of course, the obvious is I'm not going to be wearing it while we're in the bedroom. I'm not going to be wearing it while I'm in the bathroom, or I'll probably have it up, with here's my fake Google glasses, as something just popped outside. That was weird. Anyway, here's my fake Google glasses. Bring it up. That's how I'm probably going to wear it while I'm going to the bathroom. But of course, as Luke mentioned, it's not like it's just going to turn itself on, take a picture, or take a video. So we had a little discussion on that, and of course, I suggest to everybody out there to have a discussion with your significant other when you do have Google Glass, and you're ready to be part of that Google Glass revolution, and go from there. But the bottom line is, with the show, we had about 11,000 views, and 11,000 views came to a significant amount of money from Amazon, almost $200, which is, I've never had to pay that before in hosting fees. So it was a rude awakening, but it was well worth it. We were on episode number 4, and of course those numbers have kind of settled down a little bit. So I don't think I'm going to get another $175 bill unless I get like a really good episode where we get another 11,000 views or more. So and I challenge you, if you really want to watch the show, of course, just like you're watching Geek Smack, whether you're watching it live or you're watching it recorded, and be part of that. And if I have another $200 bill, I'll figure out how to pay that $200 bill. It's always been the case with anything, with and that's the situation right there. So hey, numbers, I just want to let you know, next week I might be in DC, so probably won't have a show next week. If I do, it's going to be very low key, and then we'll take a week off, come back the week after. So I'm really happy on that. For all of you that were following the 10,000 steps I did in the month of May, I actually completed, get this, 350,000 steps. Now, apparently you can actually add extra activity. Washing the dishes is an activity, and believe it or not. And like right now, doing this show technically is an activity because first of all, I'm standing, and so my body's circulating a little bit better. My blood pressure is lower than if I'm sitting down, so on and so forth. So I could actually mark this, which I've been standing for about 2 to 3 hours and at my standing desk getting work done, and I can mark that as activity because it's just as important as walking 10,000 steps. But I still walk the 10,000 steps. Of course, playing drums, that I throw in that activity, and it basically shot that through the roof. So the overall number was 350,000 steps, and I'm really happy about that. It was a very tough goal because walking 10,000 steps basically meant you had to take at least 2 hours of your time each day, or my time each day, to actually walk the steps. So I'm really happy that it happened. So I'm that's pretty cool. Other than that, anything else that happened this week? That's pretty much it. So of course, if you have any questions, comments, feel free. The Geekazine is my Twitter handle. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com is the email address. 608-205-4378 is the phone number. We might even get on some people, do some one-on-one interviews on the pre-show and talk to somebody before we get into the show. I don't know how I'm cultivating this part for YouTube, the vlog part, I guess you could call it. And hopefully we'll get more, but maybe we'll have a hangout, a pre-hangout, or something like that. But I haven't, like I said, I haven't figured out all the little bells and whistles, dot the I's and cross the T's type stuff. So if you have any ideas, feel free to Twitter me or email me at geekazine@gmail.com. All right, here's what's going to happen now. I'm gonna let it go blank. It's gonna go to you'll see the Geek Smack screen as I will count to about 5 or 6 or something like that, and then I'll officially start the show. And then as we start the show, I'll have really quick what's going on, and then we'll go straight into the tech news, straight into the geek news, get you on the editorial, and get you on your way. Hopefully I'll knock this down. This first part's about 10-15 minutes, and then the next part will be about 30 minutes, and you'll be on your way. I'll take a drink of water. I'm ready to go. And of course, I don't know if you noticed this, but in the back, I actually updated some of the pictures on here. So feel free to watch back here as I grow. I'm trying to figure out where to move it. If you've got a monitor that you want to, you just lying around, that's more than a 17-inch monitor, hopefully in a 16 by 9 format, maybe a small TV or something like that you'd like to donate to the show, feel free to email me, and I'll send you my address, and you can send it along, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get into the show. Like I said, you'll see the screen, and it'll be about 5 seconds blank, and then we'll get into Geek Smack. So let's get started.
This is the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, welcome to episode 266. I think 65, 66. Anyway, my name is Jeffrey Powers. I already forgot the number here. And we've got a great show for you. Lots of tech news, lots of geek news. We're going to talk about X-rated Google Glasses apps. We're going to talk about camera sensors getting better. We're going to talk about nuance finally confirmed in Siri. And then, of course, we're going to talk about the big thing here, and that is Android store is actually getting ready to surpass the iOS store. Should Apple be worried? Should the iOS store be worried about this? Or should they take it in stride, and should they figure out a new plan or move on? What should they do? And then we're going to talk about that. But we're brought to you this week by our friends over at juststand.org, over at Day in Tech History, over at Roku, and then, of course, all this cool switching, I was going to say switching, is brought to you by Wirecast. And we are live on YouTube over at youtube.com/Geekazine for the live show. So let's get started for today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, welcome to Geek Smack, the show where we smack the geek out of you every single Tuesday for your Wednesday consumption. If this is the first time that you've come to the show, thank you very, very much. We always do it, like I said, Tuesday afternoon for Wednesday consumption. You can download it in audio format. You can download it in video format. You can now go to YouTube and watch the YouTube live version, which we have about 8 to 10 minutes of extended coverage on there. And there's so many ways that you can watch Geek Smack. It's amazing. So I'm really happy to be part of this and give this content to you as much as possible. So you can contact me really simply. Geekazine is the Twitter handle. Everything is down here. Geekazine@gmail.com is the email address. And then, of course, the hotline is 608-205-4378. I know that Bruce actually sent me a couple voicemails about the day in tech history and doing some corrections on that. So I did check to get that, and thank you very much, Bruce, and go from there. Really, really quick, thanks for everybody that downloaded this week in Google Glass. We got the first episode got over 11,000 downloads. That's great, but then I got the bill today. Wasn't too great. I'll figure out how to. It's about a $200 bill right there. I'll figure how to pay that. But keep watching the show. The more we watch, the more I can get sponsors and the more money I make. And of course, go over to youtube.com/Geekazine to watch it and go from there. All right, and then of course the 10,000 steps I've completed at 350,000 steps. I'm really happy about that. So let's get into your tech smack for this week. All right, and this episode is brought to you by our friends over at juststand.org, where they ask, do you have sitting disease? Basically, you sit 8-9 hours in a day during your job. When I was an IT administrator, I would always get that desk, and I'd always look for that right chair, or I'd petition to get that right chair, the one with the lumbar support and the 15 little knobs and dials that can make my butt feel better and my back feel better, and of course that mesh so it could breathe through, so I wouldn't have a sweaty tuchus as I'm going. So little did I know that I was fighting the wrong fight. What I should have been fighting for was a standing desk, a desk where I could stand and sit when I felt like it, moved it up when I needed to, set it down where I didn't need to, where I just needed to sit down for a little bit so I could work more ergonomically, I could feel better, I could lower blood pressure and all that other stuff. Back in January, I interviewed the folks over at juststand.org where they outfitted me with a WorkFit D desk. That's this desk right here that I'm going to show you right here. Let's go here. And this is the best desk because of the fact I can raise it, I can lower it whenever I need to. Get it to that right height so when I'm working, when I'm doing the show, you see more of me and little of the desk, or more of the desk and little of me. Whatever the situation, I can work and be more comfortable. I'm also getting healthier by standing at my desk, lowering my risk for diabetes, which is in my family history, heart disease, and other illnesses that you get by not being in any type of motion. Every 2 hours of sitting reduces blood flow and lowers your blood sugar. It's simple. Stand for 2 to 3 hours for work, and you could prolong your life and feel healthier. Get the facts over at www.juststand.org and check out not only the solutions for your office, but if you're a gamer, for your TV at home, or maybe your entertainment center, so you can watch a lot of shows a lot better. That's over at juststand.org. All right, let's get into your tech news for this week. We're going to start over at, we can close that, and we can close that. Let's start over at Massery. I don't know the website. Basically, we're talking about Skype, and apparently there were about 750,000 users that were infected by Skype, malware that came through Skype. It was mostly in Latin America, but there were people in the United States that did get affected by this. Approximately 67% of all incidents were in Latin America, but 750,000 instances of this virus coming through is something to really think about with only a few days. So the ESET found the peak of the infection occurred last week when thousands of users received messages such as, "Are these really your pictures?" or "Haha, the strange photos of your profile." If you get something like that and you don't know who it is, don't click on it. Don't open it. Now, of course, we have a lot of web savvy users, so people out there that watch this show know this type of stuff, and they say, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." But it's now your job to tell the people that don't know. You say, hey, if you ever get a message that says click on these pictures, don't click on the pictures. And the more that we send that out to people, the more that they understand it, and the more that this doesn't happen. Of course, people always try and find new ways to do that. Yeah, whether it be they're saying, "Hey, take a look at these pictures," or maybe I caught you on an iPad Mini, or you got caught on Google Glass. That's the new one I'm waiting for to really creep up. I've seen a couple of them pass out on the email and stuff like that. So if you see stuff like that and you don't know who it is, don't click on it and move on from there. If you want to read more on this article, it's iMasera. I think that's how you pronounce it. iMasera.com. You can check it out there. Let's move on from there. Let's go over to USA Today. Sad day for you, some of you Zynga people out there. And that's basically that there's about 520 Zynga workers that are being let go because of they need to save money. And even though their farm bill is still doing pretty darn well, I guess they need to cut so they can make they can cut basically about 70 to 80 million so they can keep going. So they're closing some offices. They're laying off 18% of the workforce worldwide. So if you do work for Zynga, you might have gotten a pink slip. I do apologize. I'm sorry that did happen. But of course, if you're a gamer, you can probably get some go to some other companies and get back into the swing of things. So we knew it was coming. The writing was on the wall for Zynga. It's continuing to happen. Zynga just needs to do the reorganization in the right way, and they could be back on top again. We'll see what happens. Of course, it also takes one game to make it happen, like Farmville. They're writing on Farmville, but the reality is eventually they might have to find something else, or else Farmville might lose its luster, and then next thing you know, they do have to find something else. So if you want to read more, excuse me, if you want to read more on that, go over to usatoday.com. All right, moving on from there, we're going over to PCWorld.com. The Sandy Bridge is done. It's time for a new chip, and that's what Intel is showing off, and it's called the Haswell chip. Haswell. Haswell is the next version of Intel i7 core processors, i7, I think i5, I don't know if i3, but it's basically for the mobile devices. And it's a dual core chip that's supposed to be bringing down the power draw as little as 6 watts. Now, what does that mean? That means when you finally get your Surface tablet and it has a Haswell chip in there might be a possibility that you don't have a fan in the tablet. And that's the one problem I've had with the Surface tablets up until now, is the fact that there are certain tablets that just cannot bypass it. You need to get one that has a fan in it because it gets super hot. With this processor, it's the start. It might not be the ultimate. It might be the next generation after the Haswell that will make it so fans are not needed. You'll still have heat sinks in there. The tablet will still get hot. There's no way around it. It just it does it. So if your tablet gets too hot, the best thing to do, like for my iPad 4th generation, it does get hot. So what I do is I actually put a case on it, a Zag case, and it's actually a semi-open case, so it does have circulation out there, so it keeps it cool, so it doesn't the case doesn't heat it up even more. But I've had situations where I was using the iPad, and all of a sudden it would just stop and say it's too hot, or you've got to cool down. Let it cool down for a little bit. So these are the things, the walls we have to bump into to get to something better and faster and cooler. So if you want to read more on this, go over to PCWorld.com. Going on from there, we're going over to Engadget. There is a camera called Graphene, and basically what this is is a sensor. That didn't work too well. That's about 1,000 times more sensitive to light. Now, what does this mean? This means that if these get put into your smartphone, then you could actually be taking pictures in low light situations, getting pretty decent pictures with less pixelation, and you won't need a flash. And as we know, flashes on smartphones are horrible. In fact, every time I take a picture with a flash, I end up turning off the flash and taking the picture again and using the low light version. I wish I would have had something better when I got my, you'll see a picture of me and Robert Scoble perfect timing, for Google Glass. And it was in a low light situation. And we tried the flash and it just didn't work. So we turned off the flash and it worked a lot better. So this sensor will have better pictures and more reasons to use your camera. So it's just the question of which phones this sensor is going to go into. If you want to read more on that, go over to Engadget.com. From there, we're going over to DigitalJournal.com. Asus is talking about their dual boot system, and this is actually pretty cool. They call it a triple boot, I think it is. And basically, it's a triple system. So it can be a laptop, it can be a desktop, or it can be a tablet. Tablet on its own, hook it up to a keyboard, it becomes a laptop. Hook it up to a docking station, it becomes a desktop. And it was part of their conference that they were at, and they unveiled it. They're calling it the Transformer Book Trio. And of course, it's dual boot. So you can boot it to Windows 8, or you can boot it to Android's Jelly Bean. And with the new processors in there, it'll be a lot easier to actually do that type of dual boot thing. So you can actually switch it with a physical hotkey if you wanted to. So you can have both operating systems whenever you need it. So I don't know if I've done the dual boot. This Mac actually has a Windows side to it. Since I put in the new hard drive, I haven't put the dual boot back onto it, and I'm happy with that, even though I miss a couple pieces of software that I really need. But I have more space for Mac, and of course I have some alternate software that I can use. The only problem I had was I was trying to open a CSV file last night, and I didn't have a program. I didn't have Office on this machine to do that. So not a big deal in that case for me, at least. So if you want to read more on this with Digital Journal, that's over at digitaljournal.com. All right, let's move on from there. We're going over to, we've got a couple more articles here. First of all, Apple Radio is on the way. Apple is creating iRadio, well, what they've deemed iRadio right now. And the idea is that with iRadio, it'll work like the Pandora systems, the Spotify, even Google Music All Access, where you'll be able to set up stations, and then it'll play a couple songs. It'll probably have an ad. It'll play a couple more songs. In fact, Apple is going to be probably shuttering iAd or maybe even moving it into iRadio. Now, a lot of people are calling it iRadio, but iRadio.com has been a domain that's somebody's owned since 1995. So I don't know if iRadio will be the actual name unless they can actually get the domain from the person that has iRadio. So we'll see what happens there. Of course, this is all happening because of WWDC next week. And the reason why this is, a lot of people are talking about this, is because Apple just put together another contract with another radio station, radio group. And let's see, where was it? Warner Music was the one that joined. Universal and Sony, Universal is also on there. Sony and UMG still need to sign contracts. If they get, I have a feeling if they get signed by the end of the week, that then next week we'll hear all about this new radio station for Apple. So if you want to read more on this, go over to Geekazine.com. All right, last article of part 1 will get you into part 2. And of course, we'll talk about Android App Store beating out the iOS App Store and what that means to everybody. So this is over on technewsworld.com. Your iPhone could be poisoned by a charger. Now, if you think about it, you use your charger cable as your sync cable as well. So if I was to actually re-engineer the dongle, the wart, or whatever you want to call it, that you actually plug in the USB cable into that goes into the wall, I could actually put in a little chip or something like that and throw some malware into it. And then when you plug it into the charger, it then, instead of charging, well, it charges and it syncs. And then it syncs by putting a file up there. Next thing you know, you've got malware in your phone. They found it out at the Georgia Institute of Technology. They have a way to hack into these iOS devices. So if you, I don't think this is going to happen right away, but you know, you bring your own chargers, bring your own warts, use your own stuff, and you'll be fine. If somebody walks up to you and says, "Here, use my charger," steer clear from it for a little while, and then just use your own charger. So, and of course, we've done that before. It's like I'm sitting in a room. It's like I don't have my charger with me, and I need to charge it for a little bit. And somebody says, "Here, use my charger." And they might not even be the wall wart. It might be one of those little devices like the Zag Spark or something like that that you plug into and go from there. Modified, they throw in the malware, poof, it's in your phone. So something to look at over at technewsworld.com. All right, that does bring us to the end of part one. We're going to get into part two, and then, of course, we're going to talk about Android App Store, iOS App Store, and is this a big deal? So we will be right back on Geek Smack, where we'll smack some more geek out of you. All right, and this part is brought to you by Day in Tech History, my website, other website. It's a full rundown of technology history every single day. Like, for instance, June 4th, Ford test drove the first car, and at the same time, Palm acquired Handspring in the PDAs. Now, the cool thing about Day in Tech History, 365 days a year, there's always a podcast in audio format for you to listen to on iTunes, on Stitcher, or over at www.dayintechhistory.com. And of course, the big news is in September 15th, it'll actually be celebrating the 1500th episode. Let's bring it back. 1500th episode of the Day in Tech History. So that's since 2009, 1500 episodes have come across, which I know that no other podcast has done that. So it's been going 365 days for the last 4 years, and I'm really happy about that. So check that out over at www.dayintechhistory.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, let's get into the next part here. And I'm just going to load up a few. I'm using this one tab, and I'm really liking it. Except instead of putting up all 16 tabs or whatever I have set up, I just I put them all up, and then I hit the one tab, and it throws it into an area. I can then catalog it, and then as I bring it up, it brings up each tab, and it does it in the order too. So when I set up the order of how I want to do the show, hit one tab, it puts that order down, and then brings it up as it goes. So I'm really happy about that. Check it out. If you're using Chrome, it's called One Tab, and you can get it in the Chrome store. I'll have a link to it in the show notes, but going back over to Geekazine News, Nuance has confirmed that it's finally confirmed it's the voice of Siri. At the All Things D11 conference, Nuance CEO Paul Ricci let the cat out of the proverbial bag and said, "Hey, we do Siri. We are the back end for Siri. No, we're not doing anything with Google right now, but that's where we are right now. That's how it's working." So they do have a partnership. We knew that we had a partnership with Nuance. There was lots of speculation that that Nuance was part of Siri, and now we have that completely confirmed. So if you want to read more on that, go over to geekazine.com, news.geekazine.com. Moving from there, we're going over to The Guardian. Twitter Vine has launched an app on Android, and a lot of people are really happy about this because, of course, Vine is this 6-second video thing that was created in created in July of 2012, and then by October of 2012, Twitter actually bought them out, which is that's a short amount of time. But so basically, what happens is you hold up the phone, and then you hold down on the screen, and it takes 6 seconds of video. If you want to do some stop motion, all you have to do is tap the screen. It takes a little bit of video, and then you move around your stuff, and then tap the screen. A lot of people do that. The most famous thing right now is Will Sasso, who used to be on Mad TV. He was doing these 6-second lemon videos where he would see a lemon and all of a sudden a lemon would come out of his face. So a lot of funny things on there. A lot of people doing some stuff on this platform. So now you can do it on your Android device, and they come with a new addition to that, and it you can share it. You can also what is it? There is a new feature in there, and I can't remember what that was. So, but you got some cool features. If you got an Android phone, just download it and check it out. If you want to read more on this, go over to theguardian.co.uk. Speaking of which, over on The Verge, this one guy, his name is Will Smitelin, and he found a way to break Vine. And of course, how does he break Vine? But to rickroll it. Yes, he actually found a way to go past the 6-second mark. And when he did that, he then took this video and uploaded it, and basically with a tweet that basically said, "I think I broke Vine," and that was it. Of course, this post has been completely taken down, but he did find a problem, which I'm guessing that Vine has figured out and is working on getting fixed. So if you want to read more on this, go over to theverge.com and go from there. All right, moving on from there, we got a few, just load these up. We got a few more before the end of Geek Smack, and we'll get you into the main subject here. We're over on Computer World and computerandvideogames.com. And we're talking about Halo. Of course, last week, the big news that the Xbox One came out. And so Halo's getting some reboots and stuff like that. And one of the things that they're doing is they're putting Halo onto the smartphone, onto the mobile device. Now, Halo is called, this version is called Spartan Assault. And it's great for all you people that want to play mobilely with Halo. But there's only one small problem. You've got to have a Windows device to do it. Of course, Halo will be for the Xbox, and they might make a version for Xbox 360, Xbox One, and then, of course, your Windows device, Windows 8 tablet. So it won't be on the iPads, it won't be on the Androids, it'll be only on Windows devices, at least at this time. Things could change. You never know. They might say, well, we need to make more money off of this, so yeah, let's do it, and give them a taste over on iOS devices and Android devices. But right now, no, not so much. So if you want to read more on that, go over to computerandvideogames.com. First time we've been to this website, so if there's any problems, let me know, and we'll change the link. All right, we talked about this for a little bit on This Week in Google Glass, and I want to, and basically it was right before, I guess, Google banned it, but there were apparently some porn apps out there that have come out to Google Glass. Well, Google has officially got on and said, hey, we're going to be banning this app and other porn apps that do come through. Now, what does this mean for you and Google Glass if you want to download a porn app? Well, it means you have to root your Google Glass to get to it, most likely. Just like with an iPhone, you'll have to jailbreak your iPhone so you can get to the apps that you really want to use, or you just you keep it locked and you don't watch porn on your Google Glass or your iPhone. So, pretty interesting article. Like I said, we talked about it pretty extensively over at This Week in Google Glass on last night's show, so you can check that out there. Of course, this article is over on cnbc.com. Moving on from there, we're going over to pcmag.com. Twitter had an outage last night, very brief outage. It went down at 1:08 p.m. Pacific and 1:33 p.m. Pacific, and they said that it was an error in the routine change, whatever that means. So basically, they were doing some sort of change, and they had a problem, and it broke. So they've resolved the problem. Twitter's back up. So some of you didn't even see it, I bet. You probably go, oh, yeah, Twitter went out. Okay. So that happened yesterday. If you want to read more on that, go over to pcmag.com. All right, last part of part 2. We'll get you on to the main subject here. Windows 8.1 now with a start button. At least this is the picture that's been floating around the interwebs. The Paul Thurrott was doing the super site for Windows. He published a shot of Windows 8.1 with the new look start button. Of course, that's the monochrome start button that Windows has adopted for their new logo, the flat look, which is what we're getting into, the flat look in mobile and computing. So pretty cool stuff. If you missed your start button, which I kind of did, this is going to be perfect. The only thing is, I'm wondering if I hit that start button, will it just come up with the Metro screen, or will it actually bring the bar on the side? Which I liked, because if I still have stuff loaded on the screen, it's like, oh wait, I need to check this one thing, and I hit the start button and go to this, I can still see the stuff on my screen. But if it just loads up to the big Metro screen, what's the point in having the start button again? So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on it? Let me know. You can Twitter me over at Geekazine. Of course, geekazine@gmail.com is the email address. And then the hotline at 608-205-4378. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, what we're going to do is, that's the end of the Geek Smack side. We're going to get you into the main subject here. We're going to do that in a couple minutes here. And we will be back, and we'll talk about Android App Store versus iOS App Store. And that's over at Geek Smack, over at thegeeksmack.com and geekazine.com. With over 700 channels to choose from, the Roku should be part of your entertainment center, and the price is great. You got channels from Amazon to Netflix to Hulu Plus, and of course you can add to your pay channels like HBO Go. You also have Disney for the kids. You have tons of ways to entertain people. Not only movies, but you can also have great games, such as Pac-Man, such as Galaga, and of course, Angry Birds. And that's all through the Roku entertainment system. Now let me show you one channel that's in particular near and dear to my heart, and that's over here, the techpodcast.com channel. If you go to the techpodcast.com channel, you go into the video and you go into tech news, you will find not only iPad 365, but Geekazine's special media feed, and then of course the show Geek Smack, all on your Roku right there. So check it out. Prices start at $50 to no more than $100 for all this great entertainment. Do that by going over to geekazine.com/Roku. That's geekazine.com/Roku to get yourself a Roku player and start watching movies, start watching content, and start playing Angry Birds over at geekazine.com/Roku. Google's Play Store for Android apps will begin to take over Apple's App Store as the most popular app platform within the next few months. It's according to some analysts out there, saying that even though Apple recently announced their 50th billionth app download, Google has been closing that gap with almost 48 billion Android apps downloaded. Google Play basically gets 2.5 billion a month as opposed to Apple's 2 billion. So what does this mean? Well, for a developer, it might mean that you'll make more. It might be worth it more to jump over to the Android app over an iOS app. It's cheaper to get a developer account, basically about $25 for the developer license as opposed to $100 a year for iOS. On the other hand, developing for the Android can actually become kind of tricky. There are many different versions of Android out there, from version 1.0 to the most current ice cream sandwich. Then you have models from HTC, from LG, from Samsung, and everything in between. You have tablets from Google Nexus to Kindle Fire, Nook, and many other models. Just today, we talked about Asus doing the dual boot tablet between Windows 8 and a form of Jelly Bean Android. Different processors, different versions of the OS, so it works on the device in question, can equal a nightmare for support in a complicated app. Apps like Vine, which we talked about earlier, will get better and faster downloads numbers simply because more people will have the Android devices. Twitter's free, Vine's free, download, they'll make big numbers off of that. In fact, Android has 51% of market share as opposed to iOS's 41%. Now, should this concern Apple? My answer is no, and here's why. Apple has always been a higher quality device, controlling their hardware, controlling their software, and not giving it out to third parties to duplicate means everyone gets the same experience. Of course, you pay for that quality. An $800 to $1,000 PC laptop would cost about $1,500 or more from its Apple counterpart. Some people say that the higher prices could hurt Apple, but up until last year, before Apple started competing by offering their older phones at cheaper prices, Apple rode a pretty good wave and basically plateaued at about $700 a share right before they started doing the backtracking. What about Windows apps? Now, the platform neutral app system that Microsoft is working on could be another great way to get their market share into the space, which is right now at 8%. Apple basically should be looking at their niche rather than what Android or Windows does. Think of it like going to the high-end grocery store versus going to the discount grocery store. The product should be fresher, the experience should be cleaner, maybe things will be even more organic, and you'll find more selection at that high-end store. The discount store, you basically get a great deal and you get what's there. And you save some money. And that's basically how it should be working. So, I don't know. What do you think on this? Do you think that Apple should be concerned on the fact that Android is going to overpower them in the App Store? Or is it just, another thing, another way of figuring out quality versus quantity? Let me know. Twitter me over at Geekazine. Of course, you can email me, geekazine@gmail.com. And then, of course, the hotline at 608-205-4378. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, geeks of all ages, that does it for this episode of Geek Smack. I hope you had fun. I hope you got educated. And I hope you got some geek out of it, because I had a lot of fun putting it together. My name is Jeffrey Powers. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening. A little programming show note. Next week, I might be in DC, so there might not be a show. We'll see what happens. But we will definitely be back in 2 weeks with another episode of Geek Smack, smacking the geek out of you like we always do. My name is Jeffrey Powers once again. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time on Geekazine's Geek Smack.